I haul books, I read, I write, and I play with my dogs. Aloha and welcome to my channel. I'm Marilyn Maya, the baby boomer booktuber, and I'm here with two of my favorite people in the world. Yes, they're people to me. This is Chicky, and she's 14, and she just had a grooming. And this little one is Princessa Jasmine, and she's 13, and she also was groomed, or shall I say she was pretty much shaved. And these are my favorite people in the whole wide world, and I don't know what I would do without them. I want to welcome you to the end of the year haul, read, and what I enjoyed. So I'm going to put my little doggies down so I can pick up little books. I just started my channel in late August when I turned 70, and I wanted to do something momentous with my life. And it turned out to be quite the year for everyone. And I have a lot of books in my bookcase that I'm going to reread, and some of them I haven't read. But I have to say that this year of reading, I haven't really found that many 5-star reads, but I'm still hopeful for the next year. I want to go through some of the books that I've read and that I've given stars to. I also want to talk about some books that I have read and books that I haven't gotten to yet, but I plan to read. I'm not going to go very deep into the books right now, but let's start with the book I just finished. It's called 84 Charing Cross Road by Helene Hanff. And this is a favorite book of many, many booktubers. You want to sit down, honey? Sit. I saw the movie. I don't even remember when I saw the movie. And I don't know if this has made my experience with this book less than it would have been, but I think that I enjoyed the movie better. Now let me just go into it a little bit more. So this is a beloved classic of a woman in New York who corresponds with a bookseller in London, and he's on 84 Charing Cross Road, and he was played in the movie by Anthony Hopkins. And the reason I want to read this again, because a lot of the references of the books that she was asking for were books that I wasn't familiar with, and I think that hampered my enjoyment of this book as much as it would have if I had read the book. Also, I really liked the main characters in the book. Well, this is like a memoir, so it's really the real people. Frank was the person who she was corresponding with, and he was a bookseller. He didn't own the bookstore, but he was a bookseller. And she became, during this, I think this started right after the war, and World War II, that is. And she became friends with a lot of people in his circle, his wife, and the people that worked in the bookstore at the time. And she's really breezy and New York-y, and I'm from New York, so I really enjoyed that part. And she would call him Frankie, and he was like, in the beginning especially, he was very reserved, as English people were known to be. I don't know if they still are, but he was very reserved. But she began to like break down his defenses, and that was fun. Another thing that I noticed in the book was that everybody wanted her to visit London, and she kept on giving excuses and putting it off. And I sensed that she didn't want to become a real person to him and the staff. And she kept on making excuses, and some of them were good excuses, but that was very interesting as well. I think I need to give this a closer read. So I'm not going to star it yet. If I was to star it now, I would give it 4 stars. It's a very short book, but I enjoyed it. Not as much as I thought I would, but I think, like I said, it needs a second reading. A few other books that I read and that I went into in other videos was Josephine Tey, who was sort of a rival, if it can be said that, of Agatha Christie during the golden age of mystery. And I really enjoyed her 2 books that I read, A Shilling for Candles and The Franchise Affair. And I went into more of these in depth in other videos. But Josephine Tey is definitely worth a read. And a book that I just finished and I gave a 2-star review to is A Woman Alone by Nina Loren. Now, after I made a review, a rant on Goodreads, I felt kind of bad because she's pretty young, and this is the beginning of her career, I assume. I'll give you a synopsis and then I'll give you my view of it. A house with the darkest of secrets, a woman who is the only one who knows. And it's another bright sunny day in Ventura, Illinois, the sort of place where dreams come true and families can get a fresh start. Cecilia Holmes deserves it after the home invasion that shattered her previous life. Now everything seems perfect. Her high security smart home, her doting husband, her sweet daughter. None of this is true, by the way, and it shouldn't even have been in the blurb. Well, the part about the doting husband and the sweet daughter. And she feels spied upon, and she has nowhere to turn to when she discovers a shocking secret about the prior occupant of the home. Now, this is the part of the blurb that's really not true. She thinks that she has no one to turn to, and now Cecilia must face her fears alone. She's never alone in this book, and she never faces her fears alone. So that was, I think, just to get the reader reading. I'm not going to read you and my whole review on Goodreads, but I will say the beginning and the end, maybe. It says, did you ever read a book that has few or no redeeming qualities? A Woman Alone was that book for me. The story is so far-fetched, it's almost out of the thriller genre and into horror or fantasy, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I'll stop here by saying that it's into a bad horror and a bad fantasy novel. But there is a lot of wrongs in this book. I talk about plot holes, that one can plant a large tree with all the plot holes in it. The main thing is every character is unlikable, and few are absolved in the end, and that is so true. I didn't like one character in the book, even the child, though that was sort of explained in the end, but it was too late for me to care already. Now, I won't say what the book is about, but I said if you want to read my Goodreads, I'll have it down in the bottom. I said that there were twists and turns, kept me reading, but a lot of the twists didn't make sense. And the end, I wasn't satisfied. I like to be satisfied at the end. I talk about also 2 things. How mental health is not, it's problematic the way mental health is portrayed in this book. And you'll have to read it for yourself or look at my review on Goodreads to see what I mean. I don't want to really, I have too many books to get into it at this time. And also all the authors that are taking advantage of the Gone Girl phenomenon and are putting girls and women in, wives and other women, etc., in their titles just to make a buck. And I'm not against writers making a buck. I'm a writer myself, and I didn't make a buck, but I also didn't put girl in my book. Maybe that was my problem. So I don't recommend this book, but it sort of gave me an idea why I'm getting out of the thriller genre. I think that a lot of writers who are not ready to be writers are just getting on that bandwagon, and I think I'm going to stick to mysteries for a while. So that's A Woman Alone, and I don't know, I gave it 1 star, I said, for the fact that I read it to the end, and it did have twists that kept me reading, and another star because the writing isn't really bad. It's just the plot and the story and the characters and everything else. So now some other thrillers that I haven't gotten to yet that have better reviews maybe, or more my style, is Karen Slaughter, The Good Daughter. I haven't read this yet. It's a thriller. I heard her thrillers are very dark and violent, and when I'm in the mood for that, I'm going to start reading it. And I bought this as a new book, so I really should get into it in 2021. So it just says 2 girls are forced into the woods at gunpoint. One runs for her life, one is left behind. And when I get into it a little more, I will tell you more of the synopsis and also of what I thought of it. Another book I bought is, when I started book 2 in August, is The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. I was very reluctant to buy this book because I had read that it was a rip-off of another book or another movie or something, and I started reading it and I didn't enjoy it. Also the way that agoraphobia, something that I suffer from, was portrayed in the beginning of the book. But I'm going to keep on reading it because this book was like one of astounding, thrilling, amazing. Of course, Gillian Flynn wrote that, and I think she wrote Gone Girl, so I don't know if I should take that as, I didn't like Gone Girl. I don't like unreliable narrators. She's an unreliable narrator, the main character in this book. I also am not crazy. I don't like to say the word crazy because it has such bad connotations in the mental health, but I wasn't thrilled, let's say, about the way men portray women in thrillers so far. I'm sure that there's an exception, and there are many exceptions. But lately, this is also a major motion picture, so as was Gone Girl. I don't intend to watch. I'm not really a movie watcher, and I don't know if I told you this before, but my mother was, she took me to every movie in the 50s and 60s, and I'm sort of off of movies. It has to be, I've been disappointed too many times, not only growing up where there were good movies then, but more lately. And then I read The Widow by Fiona Barton, and it says, if you like Gone Girl and Girl on the Train, you might want to pick up The Widow by Stephen King says that. Well, I should have known better because I didn't like Gone Girl, and I hated Girl on the Train. I know, I'm sorry. Also unreliable narrators that just didn't make me care enough about them. And I didn't like this book, but I think I liked it better than a lot of other books, and I'll probably go into it a little more later. But it says, there's a lot Jean hasn't said over the years about the crime of her husband was suspected of committing. She was too busy being the perfect wife, standing by her man while living with the accusing glares and the anonymous harassment. Now her husband is dead and there's no reason to stay quiet. There are people who want to hear her story. They want to know what it was like living with that man. She can tell them that there were secrets. There always are in a marriage. I don't think that this was explained well enough. I wasn't satisfied in the end, but it was good writing, if I remember. Now we come to Ruth Ware and my very complicated relationship with her. And I have 2 books by Ruth Ware, but I think I read more than 2 books. Oh yeah, I read The Woman in Cabin Whatever. Sorry, it'll be in the description. I read The Lying Game and The Turn of the Key. They weren't bad books. They're all over BookTube. The main reason that was mad at these books were the writing is really good. Her endings, she has to work on her endings, and she did. The Turn of the Key had a little bit of a better ending than her other books. The first one I really disliked, the cabin one, and The Lying Game, it was okay, but I would say they were 3-star reads maybe, and I'll probably go into that more on my end of the year reads. Now we go to a author that I will not read again, and her name is Lisa Jewell, and I think I bought a lot of her books and didn't like them. But now, is this the one? No, this is not the one. It's Then She Was Gone. Then She Was Gone made me so angry that I threw it across the room, literally. And I'll read you the synopsis. No one ever just disappears. Ellie Mack was the perfect daughter, and then she was gone. 10 years after Ellie's disappearance, her mother, Lauren Mack, is trying to put her life back together when she meets an unexpectedly charming man in a cafe. Before she knows it, she's meeting Floyd's daughter, and his youngest puppy takes Laurel's breath away, because the eerily precocious puppy is the spitting image of Ellie. Okay, there's so many problems with this book. The author herself said that she didn't know what she was thinking, that this was so dark, and that it even surprised her how dark it was. Now, if you like horror books, and you might like this, I hated it. I hated it because of the gratuitous violence, the unsettled feeling I got from the ending, and also how there were so many unlikable characters, including the main character. But the writing is good. I mean, a lot of people like Lisa Jewell. I Found You was a better novel to me, but it still didn't give me. This I give 1 star to because I finished it. I Found You, so it's The Woman in Cabin 10. If you liked Big Little Lies, I never read that one, and The Woman in Cabin 10, then you might like this. It says Shelf Awareness, which I never heard. I'm going to look that up. And it says, in the windswept British seaside town of Riding House Bay, single mom Alice Lake finds a man sitting on the beach. He has no name and no idea how he got there. Meantime, in a London suburb, newlywed Lily Monrose grows anxious when her husband fails to return home from work. But the police soon disturb even more disturbing news. The man she married never truly existed. It's a really interesting premise. I liked what I liked was the atmosphere of the beach, and what I didn't like was the characters again, and probably the ending. But more later on this. Now, what I'm reading now, and it has a much happier, hopefully. This is called Out of the Easy by Ruta Sepsis, and she wrote a book called Between Shades of Gray. It's young adult, and I don't usually read young adult, But I shouldn't say that, because I really love Betty Smith's books, which are kind of geared to the young adult audience, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, and her other books that I talked about that aren't very well known. But I'm so glad I read Between Shades of Grey. It says, her first novel, Between Shades of Grey, about the genocide of Baltic people after the Soviet occupation in 1941, was critically acclaimed and translated into over 30 different languages. The book is considered a roman à clef, with fictional characters wrapped around actual events and experience. Ruta states that the novel represents the extreme suffering and tremendous hope displayed by the people of the Baltics. I loved Between Shades of Grey. It gave me just a wonderful feeling, and I loved the plain language, and it's meant for young adults. So when I found out she wrote more books, I'm there for I'm right here. And this one is called Out of the Easy, and it's I want to read you the first paragraph because it grabbed me so much. My mother's a prostitute, not the filthy street walking kind. She's actually quite pretty, fairly well spoken, and has lovely clothes, but she sleeps with men for money or gifts, and according to the dictionary, that makes her a prostitute. Now, this is it's 1950, the year I was born, and New Orleans, French Quarter simmers with secrets. Known among locals as the daughter of a brothel prostitute, Josie Moraine wants more out of life than the Big Easy has to offer. She devises a plan to get out, but a mysterious death leaves Josie tangled in an investigation that will challenge her allegiance to her mother, her conscience, and Willie Woodsley, the brusque madam on Conti Street. Josie is caught between the dream of an elite college and a quest for the truth and a clandestine underworld. This sounds like a book I would have loved to read as a young adult, but I'm there for it right now, and I'm thinking that this will take out all the bad taste in my mouth that all the other books that I didn't like put in. My new book that I haven't read yet, my haul, is called Dark Saturday by Nietzsche French. It's a husband and wife team who write mysteries. And this one said, I should read the back of the books. For readers of Tana French and Kate Atkinson, a riveting psychological thriller about memory, family, and redemption. I love both Tana French and Kate Atkinson, so I know I'm going to love this book. It's called Dark Saturday, and I heard about the Frida Klein mysteries from BookTube, and I'll give you a little taste of it and myself. A decade ago, 18-year-old Hannah Docherty was arrested for the brutal murder of the family. It was an open and shut case, and Hannah's been incarcerated in a secure psychiatric hospital ever since. When psychotherapist Frida Klein is asked to meet Hannah and give her assessment, she reluctantly agrees, but what she finds horrifies her. Hannah has become a tragic figure before her time, and Frida is haunted by the thought that Hannah might be as much of a victim as her family, that someone wasn't right all those years ago. So, this book is in a series. I don't know how many are in the series, but they all start with like Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And this is from the library, and I did order the other books, but don't know if I'm going to get a chance to read them. I'm going to go through all of these other books a little fast. I said in my last video that I'm going to reread Agatha Christie, and Mara from Books Like Woe, this was her favorite book, Cards on the Table, and I ordered this from my library in a large print book, and I'll explain more about that later. And the minute that I opened it, I remembered the whole story. I mean, I didn't remember, I kind of remembered how it ended, and I remembered, it's memorable, let's put it that way. And I'm going to read it again, of course. And this story is ingenuous. New York Times Book Review. And let me see when this was, this had to be a long time ago. Well, it was rewritten, it was 1936. The large print edition, Center Point, was printed in 2013, and I'm very grateful for books that are written in large print. At an exhibition of snuff boxes, Hercule Poirot meets Mr. Shaitana, a mysterious foreign man. Shaitana jokes about Poirot's visit to the snuff box exhibition and claims that he has a better collection that Poirot would enjoy, people who have gotten away with murder. Though apprehensive, Poirot accepts an invitation to a dinner party where Shaitana will show him his collection. And there's more to the blurb, and I'm not even going to read the rest of the blurb that kind of goes into a little bit of spoilers. So I'm definitely going to reread it again, but it's so memorable that I can understand why Mara would put this on, I think it was 1 or 2 of best Poirot novels. Now the next book is from my personal library. It's called You Gotta Have Wa. I don't know if I told everybody, but I used to be a teacher in Japan for 3 years. And at first I thought wa means is or was, but it also means, my daughter who lived in Japan longer told me it meant balance. And I'll read you the blurb. Wa is a Japanese term meaning unity and team spirit. Every person playing baseball in Japan must have it. If Americans play baseball, the Japanese work it. Injured pitchers are urged to pitch through the pain. Playing without rigorous pre-game practice is unthinkable. Scores are encouraged that way. No one loses face. And the Japanese members of teams like the Tokyo Giants, the Taiyo Whales, and the Nippon Ham Fighters, the property of a pork producer, don't miss games for anything, including deaths in the family or the births of their own children. Now, when I taught in Japan, I was in Kobe and Osaka, and our team was the Kansai Tigers, and I used to make everybody laugh, my students, when I would say, Kansai Tigers, go, go, go. Now each team has cheerleaders. It's kind of funny, and they have their own songs and their own chants, and this is supposed to be a witty book about baseball in Japan compared to American baseball. I'm not into baseball, but I am into Japanese culture. So anyone who is interested in baseball or Japanese culture, or both, I really think you should read it. I started reading it, but I got distracted with other books. So that's that. Now, my other books have to do with some medical problems that I'm dealing with. And it's getting dark here in Hawaii, so I think I'm going to save some of these for my next video. But January 7th, I'm going to have an operation, a surgery, a cataract operation. So I don't know how many books I'm going to get to read. And I am reading, these are my pile of books. Well, it's actually, it's here somewhere, but it's Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. And I had mentioned in my last video that the print was so small and they didn't have a large print book. But when I got the book, it's still small, so, and it's pretty chunky book. So I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to read it or want to before January 7th. But I also have another problem, which is I have peripheral artery disease. So this is something about myself. Whenever I face a problem, whether it be physical or mental. I go out and try to buy every book about that problem to try to solve it. And books have been very helpful to me. And these are all books relating to how I can have a better heart. And I will go into these in my next video. I did have a favorite book in 2020, and it was a book that was on my bookshelf, Meditations to Heal Your Life by Louise L. Hay. And I want to end with one of her quotations. Well, it's not a quotation, it's more of a little paragraph. Love makes my world go around. I hope that you get something out of it, because I really did. My love is powerful. I treat myself as if I am someone who is deeply loved. All kinds of events come and go. Yet through it all, the love for myself is constant. This is not being vain or conceited. People who are vain or conceited have a lot of self-hatred, covered over by a layer of I'm better than you. Self-love is simply appreciating the miracle of my own being. When I really love myself, I cannot hurt myself, and I cannot hurt another person. To me, the answer to world peace is unconditional love. It begins with self-acceptance and self-love. I no longer wait to be perfect in order to love myself. I accept myself exactly as I am, right here and now. So my friends, thank you for watching my video, and thank you for subscribing, and please like and hit the notification bell if you're so inclined. I appreciate all of you. I love all of you, and I hope my love and aloha is sent out. I call it baskets of aloha to everyone out there, and to have a wonderful new year that's coming up with health and happiness for everyone. So until we meet the next time, my friends, aloha oi.